Good morning. I'd like to call the September 1st, 2020 bid board meeting to order. We have a quorum. We have two people logged in remotely, Brian and Peggy. Welcome, everybody. Just really quick, I'd like to just introduce Jess Wilds as our new executive director, and congratulations and thanks for accepting the position, and we're looking forward to working with you.
Second.
First order of business is approval of the August 4th, 2020 minutes.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. First item is a presentation of the Downtown Historic District presentation by, I'm not sure who.
Peggy. So we have Peggy here with us today, joining from the State Historic Preservation Office in Madison. She has about a 10-minute presentation planned just to answer any questions about the process and what it means to be on the register. So thanks for joining us, Peggy. Do you need any assistance sharing your screen?
Well, it's not connecting. It's sort of, there's a spinning circle. So,
This is just a PowerPoint presentation. Did you email it to?
Yeah. Is it possible for you to email it to me and I can pull it up on my end? Great.
yeah.
While we're doing that, well, we can wait.
That's your dog.
Not my dog, I'm here.
You didn't know your dog logged on?
My dogs don't bark. Should we just go on to the financial report and get that done, and then?
Sure. Yep. We're
Okay,
just
why
going to
don't-
do a couple of bits of business.
Why
while
don't
you
we
send
jump
that.
ahead to the financial report really quick? Jess, are you comfortable going through it?
Sure. So this is as of August 24th. You can see where we're at in terms of property tax, investment interest, and then donations. There's one donation of $500 that was from HBBA, Historic Barton Business Association, for the purchase of some of the old holiday decorations. And then as we head down, this is where we are so far in the year with expenses. A few things to note is that we do have the $35,000 in the Riverwalk project still intact. We actually did some digging into the last few years, and the bid board has fulfilled its commitment to the west side of the Riverwalk. So last year, a resolution was made to complete the $125,000 that was planned for that side of the Riverwalk. So right now, this money is not in planning to be transferred over to that project since you've reached your commitment. So that's something to consider. Perhaps you just roll it into the general fund, future projects for next year, or, as we talk about some other planned expenses, it could be used in other ways. Let's see. Also, one thing to point out is the lights and decorations. So we did have $5,000 planned. And at this point in the year, we have already spent $3,722. So as we look and have a pretty detailed conversation on decor in a little bit, that'll be something to think about. We also have $11,173 remaining in contributions from last year. So that's technically not represented here. So just so you are aware, we have approximately 11,000, let's see, $12,300 or so in funds right now for decor. And we can talk in detail about that when we get into the decoration conversation. Yeah, so that's where we're at right now. We're looking pretty good in terms of being under budget for the year.
Jess, that $35,000 was what was committed to the east side of the river?
It was committed to the west side. So the plan was to put 35,000 into the budget for 3 years to give 125 total for that project. But in 2019, toward the end of the year, a resolution was made to put in the remaining 90,000 that hadn't been allocated yet. And so in 2019, you technically paid off the total commitment.
Okay.
So
All right.
this continued to live in the budget for this year, but won't be transferred forward.
Thank you.
Yep.
And the plan was, is if it, in this case, it'll just go into that future fund. And they may come back after they start the Riverwalk and say, hey, we need, can you guys give some more money? So we'll just put it in that future fund, and then we can always pull out of there. That's how we did the 125 last year, is we just pulled it out of the future fund as opposed to these 35s. All right?
Great. Are there any other questions about the finance summary?
Do we have a balance of the future projects?
Of the future projects specifically, I
Yeah,
can pull
that
that line. At the
account.
very top, we have our fund balance, which is the 155 number at the top. So that's what our fund balance is currently.
That's the
Sitting
future funds balance.
Well, that's our full fund balance, our general fund. Jay?
Mike, if I may?
Yep, go ahead.
So just two quick things on the budget, because there was talk about the Riverwalk. You donated as a bid board and took action to donate $50,000 on the east side, and that's been long paid for, committed, or to the city and completed. And it's awesome, and that's driving the energy, that in part is driving the energy for the west side. You have already contributed $125,000, and that was the 35 plus the 90 that Jess and Mike mentioned. So that commitment's been made whole as well. That money has been transferred and it is in the process of being spent on design and the first phase of the utilities for Riverwalk project. We're still working hard on that, and you got an update last month. It's just been a complicated design and a complicated discussion with We Energies, design with We Energies, AT&T, and Spectrum. So still moving forward. Today is September 1st. We're not blowing up the Riverwalk as originally planned, but we're still working hard to that end. As far as the fund for future projects, the fund balance, Mike, is how we call it at the city. All the money that isn't spent at any given year goes into that fund balance, segregated for the bid. It's not, it's accounted for separately from the rest of the city funds. Our estimate for the end of this year is just over 200,000. So if you look at that number at the top, plus what you haven't spent for 2020, assuming things continue to track, you'll be right around 200,000.
All right, that was what I wanted to have clarified. That's what I thought it was. I just wanted to clarify that. So there's 155 in change sitting in a future fund balance.
Correct.
And then we have our current balance for this year's budget of 41.
Yep.
Okay. Now it's clear. Can we get a motion or any questions?
Motion to approve the financial report?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, do you have her PowerPoint, or we want to keep going?
I haven't yet received it. Hey Peggy, can I be of any further assistance with the PowerPoint?
Okay, why don't we
File sharing.
move on to the, I'm just trying to do things that I know are going to be short. The landscaping update for fall.
Sure. So this is short, but
Well, I hope so.
positive. So last meeting, you approved $1,000 to be put toward mums downtown, and so far 17 baskets have been filled by a Steve Bemis, and so he filled them with 3 8-inch mums in each, and so the baskets are complete already, and that was approximately $400 of the expense. And then there's approximately 60 more mums that can be planted downtown. So Claire Conrath, Julie Nolan, and I met yesterday with our Roots and Branches team to discuss how those mums could get planted, and they plan to work with their volunteers on the adopted plots and the other beds to get them planted shortly after Labor Day. So that's the plan as of now. We don't have exact dates yet, since they were going to reach out to each of the volunteers to find a time that would work best for them. But Steve Bemis will be dropping off the mums, and it's a pretty simple process so far.
Anybody have any questions? Other than it'll look really nice downtown, and thank you everybody that's doing that. Okay, are we ready, or we want to keep going?
Well, let's ask Peggy, how's it going on your end?
I'm trying to send this to you through our file sharing. It's a large file, so I'm just trying to get it uploaded.
Okay,
Great.
why don't we go
There.
into the holiday decor?
Thank you. Well, we'll just keep rolling on our agenda items to keep it going, and you just let me know if I need anything. All right, so holiday decor.
Okay, so as you know, last year we did a beautiful Christmas decoration. I'm not politically correct, so in the downtown area, and we want to have a conversation about continuing forward with that. We got information last night, so it didn't allow me time to, because I didn't get it till like 6:30 last night, to go back to the donors from last year to see if there's any interest in doing anything going forward. So I haven't had a conversation with that. However, as Jess alluded to, there's roughly $11,000 in the donation account that is still sitting there to be used. And the thought process right now of the people who did the donation is, there's a couple thoughts that can happen. One would be, we raise the tree an additional 6 feet, which was the original concept, is to get the tree to 30 feet, but we only had so many dollars last year. That's roughly $10,000 to do that. So there's that on the table, and then there's also some discussion of adding and decorating the trees in front of there's 3 trees in front of the tattoo shop that looked kind of dark with everything else. So the thoughts is, and that's what we didn't get the total pricing on when we got it last night. It's not even correct. So we need to go back and work through that with David J. Frank. So it's to do those 3 trees and then do Vest Pocket Park. My guess is, from last year's costs of those trees, we're looking at probably about an additional $10,000 that I want to try to come up with through donations. So what I'm really looking for the bid to do is, we have a commitment, and we committed to doing it, is to pay the cost of the install and the takedown, which is roughly $16,000 a year. Last year when we did it, they couldn't give us a total exact number of what it was. So what we need to do today is to commit to that. And then feeling with that, okay, the bid's putting this much in, we can go back to the original group of donors and see if we can get an additional $10,000, and then we can finish that whole area. I think this year, more than ever, people are going to want to get out. I mean, there was a ton of activity down there last year. I think there'll be even more. Our plan is to do a tree lighting that first Thursday of November again. I know people said it was early, but I think this year it's going to be late. If I look at what's going on in the retail world, they're talking October 1st for Christmas to start. Everybody's looking at gets things early because we don't know what's going to happen going forward into December. So I think that we'll be right on schedule this year by doing it in early November. So the plan is to put everything up that first Monday, Tuesday of November, and then Thursday we'll do the lighting, and it's going to be tied again with the Bloomin' Holidays of MOA. And hopefully it won't be as cold as it was last year.
Mike, so that, I apologize for being late, by the way. That $10,000, is that going to cover the extra 6 feet on the tree?
Yes.
Additional 6 feet?
Yes.
Okay. And that
So-
sounds like 16,000, that came in a little bit even less than what they thought it might be per
Originally,
year.
they thought it was going to be $25,000
Yeah,
to do
that's
the
what I
install
thought.
and takedown, so
Yeah.
they're about 9,000 under what they originally projected.
That's great.
We have a commitment from West Bend Mutual again to have some of their employees come and help put up all the light poles and do all of that. So, again, that will be done on that Monday, Tuesday. So if anybody wants to get in the holiday spirit and get out and help, more help the better, it'll get done a lot faster.
Mike, was your goal to raise 10 for a higher tree, or 10 for a higher tree, or the other stuff that you talked about?
Well, my goal is to raise another 10 on top so that we can finish the whole thing. Raise the tree another 6 feet, plus put in the Vest Pocket Park and the additional trees.
So it's not an or, the goal is both.
That's my hope.
Yeah.
So we'll see where we can, if we can get that to work. So the big question is just the approval of the dollars to install. And half of that will come out of this year's budget, and then half will come out of next year's budget.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Just a question, does it make sense if this is an annual event to start to line item this in our budget?
Yeah, I think we're going to have to do that now. So if there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, how are we doing now?
Well, unfortunately, I'm unable to open the PowerPoint presentation that was sent over, so we may need to
Postpone?
reschedule this part of the conversation unless Peggy, you're able to just talk about your presentation without showing the visuals. I'm sorry that we're unable to open it at this time.
I think it would be better if we can see it.
Otherwise, we can reschedule if that's better.
Yeah, it might be better to reschedule.
Okay.
Okay.
The
Actually, I can see your screen now. It looks like the sharing feature is working fine.
Okay, so let me try. Let me try to get my presentation up. Oh shoot. Can you?
You have to share your application.
Did you already do that?
If you open a presentation, stop sharing, go back to sharing, say share application window.
Oh,
Choose your
goodness.
presentation.
I don't know how to do that.
Well, I'm just sharing.
Sharing your application window.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want.
Well, you're doing a presentation, right?
Mhm.
Yes, so you should share that presentation window. Is that what that
It's
is?
sharing your application window.
Yeah.
Okay. So now what?
Is the video?
Yes?
Do you have a presentation you're trying to show?
Yeah, it's on my desktop.
Is it this?
Yes?
I know. So if you share application window, is it
Yes?
enter
Yes?
this?
Yes?
Share that. Now they should be able to see.
Hey, there we go.
Now if we can make it bigger.
In your presentation.
Thank you, tech support. I'm sorry, everybody.
There we
It's
go.
okay.
Okay, hopefully you can hear me and see my screen.
Yep. Here we go. We can see it and hear you.
Okay, awesome. So, wow, after all that, okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm Peggy Varigan. I'm the National Register Coordinator at the Wisconsin Historical Society. And I'm just going to give you a very brief, very general overview of the National Register program. And I'll start just by introducing the program and what most people are familiar with. And they're familiar with the National Register listing, sort of the most iconic buildings in our communities. But what they don't realize is that the National Register is designed to recognize all of the buildings in our communities that make our communities unique. So we are able to list, modest homes and schools and farms and archaeological sites. The National Register is a list of places, districts, sites, buildings that are significant in American history. They can be significant for history in architecture, engineering, archaeology, and they have significance to our history, either at the local, state, or national level. So the National Register is this list of these important places in our communities. We can list properties under different criteria, and there are 4 different criteria that we can use: history, architecture. Criterion B is association with a significant person, and then criterion D is archaeology. So the city is considering a downtown historic district, so I'm just going to focus these comments on what is a district. And a district is a collection of buildings that together tell the history of tell the story of a specific period of history. So if we have a residential historic district, that district may tell the story of architectural development from 1900 through 1930, for example. And so that district is illustrating that history of architectural development. A commercial district is telling the story, telling the history of the commercial development in the community and the historic sort of downtown core. So a district really is that collection of buildings, and it's the collection together that tells the story. We can have contributing buildings that reflect that history and non-contributing buildings that are excluded because they don't contribute to that history, or they've been so altered that they don't reflect that historic period. So we have different types of districts, as I just mentioned, but here is an example of an historic courthouse district with a courthouse in the square in the middle and then commercial development around. We can have a linear commercial district. This is a district that's sort of marches down Main Street. Or we can have districts with irregular boundaries, like this very large residential district. What does it mean to be in an historic district? There are a lot of misconceptions out there, and so one of the goals here is to explain what it means and what it doesn't mean. So I'm sure people may have heard this. If my property is listed, I have to open it to the public, and that is false. There's no rule saying you have to open your property to the public if it's listed in the National Register. I can paint my building any color I want to, and that's true. So the National Register is not a regulatory program for private property owners. It's an honorific program. It's a recognition from the state and from the Park Service. So because it's not a regulatory program, you are free to do what you want with your building. You have to follow all municipal ordinances. So the city may have its own ordinances about these things, and of course people must follow local ordinances. But as far as the National Register program, it's not regulatory. So if my property is listed, I can never change anything. Again, of course, that's false. It's not regulatory. You can, many of these things relate to homes, but you can remodel, you can, I know commercial buildings, they often will put, want to put a bathroom in their building. You can make changes to the building, build an addition, upgrade mechanical systems. You can do all of those things. Anything over 50 years old is eligible. 50 years is the benchmark. It's sort of our starting point for age, but not everything is eligible, even if it's old. It has to have significance, and it has to have integrity, meaning it has to have the same appearance to the historic period. So if the National Register is honorific and it's not regulatory, what's in it for me? And for most communities, especially when we talk about an industrial district or a commercial district, the communities are looking at these districts to facilitate economic development, to facilitate economic reinvestment, because they can use historic districts to market their town and to market their Main Street and to use it to, foster community identity and promote their community. So the big reason that many people want to list their Main Street is for facilitating that economic reinvestment. Along those same lines, economic reinvestment, we have rehabilitation tax credits that are available only if you are listed in the National Register. So there are two programs that we have. One's for homeowners and the other is for income producing properties. And because this is a commercial district that you guys are considering, the income producing tax credit is 20% state combined with a 20% federal for a 40% credit on eligible expenses. The program requires that the project is approved by my office before work starts. So this is one of those exceptions where we would be approving work because people would be using this program. We have listed in Wisconsin many buildings. This is a successful program since 1966. We have well over 2,100 individual buildings and over 400 districts. And they can be quite small, there's a wide range, or quite large. Some districts, especially in large municipalities, can reach close to 1,000 buildings. So the National Register can accommodate all kinds of situations in all kinds of communities. West Bend has buildings listed in the National Register. I'm just going to show you a couple of these. People may be familiar with these properties, and this is just to show that the National Register is already active in West Bend, and these properties are listed in the National Register. We have, and it's a nice range. You know, there are homes, there's schools, train depot, factory, school, and so these examples actually show that the National Register program recognizes all these different types of buildings in the community. Oh, and there was also, I missed the slide. Oh, there's a district. There's the Barton Historic District, and that's an early 1992 district. So I'm talking about the State and National Register, which is state and federal designation. And it's important to just remind folks that not to confuse this with local designation. This is not local landmark designation. Local landmark designation is the mechanism that you can use to protect historic buildings. Like I said, the National Register is honorific, so it doesn't offer protection. If you are interested in protecting historic buildings, that's local landmark designation, and that happens under local ordinance. The State Register and National Register, that happens through state and federal designation administered by my office under state and federal law. We list properties through a process of identification, a nomination. These nominations go to our State Historic Preservation Review Board, which is a governor-appointed review board that has the responsibility to review these and approve them for the State Register, and their approval then serves as recommendation to move them to the National Park Service for National Register approval. And very quickly, I just wanted to bring to your attention that on our website, wisconsinhistory.org, we have a lot of web resources. And so you can go to our website and you can type in an address and you can find out information about that property. Here's our SHPA landing page. And so on this page, you'll see there are links to the tax credit programs, and there's links to the National Register, and there's links to tips and information about how to preserve historic buildings. So there's a lot of great content here. I just wanted to make you aware of it. This is a screenshot of one of our pages where we have content about how to preserve your historic building, and then articles about why should we preserve our buildings, and why is it important to repair our historic windows and not replace them. So there's a lot of good information here that you can go to on our website. And again, as I mentioned, there's a page with all kinds of links to those tax credit programs. This is my contact information. If you have questions about the National Register, I would encourage anyone to call or email me. These days, working from home, it's probably easier to email me, but I'm happy to answer questions about the National Register. This is a very quick overview, and so people may have more questions, and I am here to answer questions. And so please email me, share my contact information with anyone else who may be interested or curious or have questions. I've included Paul's contact information. Maybe this was a little premature, but if this district goes through and if people are interested in using the tax credits, then Paul would be the person reviewing those projects. And that is the end of my presentation, and I'm happy to take questions if anyone has them.
Anybody have any questions? No?
If
Okay.
Well, thank you, Peggy, for your presentation. I also included in the agenda packet a 2-page FAQs. So that was pulled from their site and we put them together so that you would be equipped with a little bit more information about it as we continue the process, which will likely take around 18 months to complete. So that's why we're continuing to move ahead. We have identified a date later in September for a public information session where Peggy is willing to come back and talk a little bit more to the public about this as well, a similar presentation, go through some of the FAQs in case any property owners have questions. So we are planning to do that on September 17th at 6 p.m. And I can send that information your way. But it'll be a virtual public information session, and people can interact through text, email, or phone that evening and ask questions. So, anything else, Peggy?
I don't have anything else. The only thing I would say, I guess, is that I know that just that if people have questions, to feel free to reach out to me.
Great. We will definitely do so. Thank you for joining us today.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your patience. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry about all that tech problems, but I'm happy I was finally able to join you this morning.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. There's no further discussion on that. We can move on to the operating plan, which is the next item on the agenda. Jess and myself and Jay met a couple weeks ago and went through kind of the operating plan, came up with the budget. The projection staying at $3 per thousand, which is what we've been at for the last probably 7 years. Gives us $105,512.10 in income for next year. Just so people understand how this process works is we put together this projected kind of list, which is in the projects section. It goes to the council approves it. We have the discretion to kind of move this money around. It's just kind of placeholders and titles. As you know, in the past, we've moved stuff around and done it. Knowing now what the holiday decor costs to put up, I would propose we change this right out of the box and change that holiday decor budget to $16,000. Take $3,000 out of the contingency fund, take $3,000 out of marketing, and take $3,000 out of the Riverwalk money and put that towards the holiday. And is that going to give us enough? We're still going to be $2,000 short. We could take maybe take the contingency down to $10,000. Which is where it's always been in the past, and move the money around so that we have a decor budget of $16,000. The bridge surety, this is our last year for that. So in actuality, if we look at the bridge surety, along with the other $175,000 we gave, the bid has given $200,000 to the Riverwalk at this point. And then the historic district, the 7,500, that's for hiring a consultant to continue this process. It's actually a $15,000 expense, and the city is going to pay for half of it. So we'd basically be sharing the cost of doing that.
Any idea about the reassessments downtown and their effect on our budget for next year? Is anybody?
The reassessments are already factored in here because that happened last year.
Yep.
So we already got impact of that this budget, the 2020 budget. So the numbers are staying the same, and that's reflected in the 105, which gives us roughly $10,000, if I'm doing the numbers quickly in my head, but it's roughly $10,000 more than we had in 2019.
Okay, thank you.
The full assessment information is in the operation plan packet, so if you want to take a look through it, you can see it there. Sure.
So this is we can open this up to a public question and answer. I know there's people in the audience, if anybody wants to ask any questions. And then I'll go back to the bid board and we can discuss further. So if anybody wants to come up to the microphone and talk, you're welcome. If nobody wants to, that's fine as well. And I don't look like we have any takers, so we'll continue on. Anybody have any thoughts? Or do we want to have a motion to approve and adjust it as I recommend and move forward? Peggy, Brian, you're remote. Do you have any thoughts?
No, sounds great. I caught Mike making some recommendations to adjust, and yeah, I'll make a motion to adjust accordingly per Mike's direction and approve.
Second?
We have a motion and second.
Look at it before we just say go ahead. If we could, I don't know, maybe just have till the September meeting, I guess, just to kind of really go through all of it and then make a motion to approve.
Yeah, and I think the important thing to recognize too is, we put this budget together every year, and every year it basically just provides us a framework for the following year, and every year we make lots of adjustments, I feel, to where things actually come out of and stuff. So, but I'm up for, yeah.
And I think that's a good point. It really is just a framework of where we're headed. We can, what this does is it gives us the ability, we have to take this to council for approval because it's a taxation. And it gives that framework, and then the way the statute is written, it gives us the ability to move these monies around without having to go back to the council.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really kind of the purpose of doing it the way it is. So if there's no other discussion, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Get back up to the agenda. The only thing left is the rescheduling of the November 3rd meeting, because this building is going to be crazy with the election. And we have learned that when we move the meeting to other locations on this day, it doesn't seem to work very well, especially now with social distancing. So, do we want to push off 1 week? Just go to the following Tuesday, but that's court day, right? Not?
I don't think so. It looked open the 10th or Thursday the 5th, potentially.
10th would be good for me.
I was gonna say my preference would be to stay on a Tuesday if we can.
Sure.
Tuesdays are good for me.
Right. So maybe we push it out to Tuesday, November 10th, pending any other meetings, but I believe that it is open.
Is that okay with everybody? Brian, Peggy?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yep.
Okay.
Great.
All right, then, any agenda items for that meeting? If none, we can just get them to Jess as well.
For the October meeting?
Yes. both meetings.
Sure.
If there is nothing, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, everybody. See you next month. Be safe.
Great. Thank you.